Welcome to AEI Stories, the channel with some of the most intriguing and provocative dating stories on the web. We all date, mate, and try our best to procreate. When you think about it, dates are funny things. We meet a stranger with the hope of building great chemistry with this person. We hope this person feels the same way about us. The anticipation can be nerve-wracking but also intoxicating. We desire this person to be enamored or enthralled by us. Rarely do we think that this date will be horrendous, but we all have been there. So sit back and enjoy another dating story from hell. But before we begin, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. So let's start the show. I don't remember the exact year, but I met this woman on a dating site, probably Match.com if I had to guess. I don't remember much about our initial conversation, which matches the sentiments of our first date. I vaguely remember even asking her to join me for dinner at a taco place. The name of that place evades me right now. Anyway, right before our date, she called and asked me if we could switch our date to a different restaurant, a more expensive one. This was in my younger years when I was wet behind the ears and didn't have any fear, so I agreed to take her to the more expensive place. This was a red flag that was missed, of course. But we all live and learn, right? Anyway, on this date, I remember she was very well dressed and looked pleasant. We got seated at our table, perused the menu, and ordered our food pretty quickly. After the waitress walked away with our orders, I began engaging her with basic conversation. I asked her questions like, "What are your hobbies? What do you like doing for fun? Do you like festivals or concerts?" She answered each one, but in some sort of defiant, aloof way, she said the same thing every time. For every question I asked, she would respond, "Sleep and eat." I asked her, "What do you like doing for fun?"
Sleep and eat.
She said, "Sleep and eat." I then asked, "What movies do you like?"
Sleep and eat.
She said, "Sleep and eat." I then asked, "Do you like going out or hanging with friends?"
Sleep and eat.
She then said, "Sleep and eat." It became quite clear she had no desire to have a somewhat decent conversation with me. I remember thinking it was a lost cause and to just enjoy the food. So I ceased my attempts to have an adult conversation with her and proceeded to turn my attention toward the food and ambience around us. We ate our food in complete silence, as she made no attempts to know anything about me. I remember thinking that this was very odd. I soon asked the waitress for the bill. I paid it, then quickly said my goodbyes and made my way back to my car. I didn't even bother walking her out. I should have just stayed home and watched the Star Wars marathon on TNT. Now I know what you must be thinking. That was no date from hell. But to the contrary, my friend. The story just began. You see, a great storyteller must set the tone and mood of the story to hook the listener, and if you know it or not, you have just been hooked. Now back to the story. About a week or two passed and I had forgotten about this date and woman, as I had no intention of ever talking to her again. I was just enjoying my personal time and hobbies, which involved more than just sleeping and eating. So about 2 weeks since last speaking with her, I received a phone call one Friday or Saturday night. It was from said girl. I casually answered, mainly out of curiosity. This time around, she seemed interested in getting to know me and insisted we catch a movie that night. I was very hesitant to see her again, but she was very persistent in her desire to spend time with a player. I love going to the movies and thought that catching a movie wouldn't be much of a risk, as the movie would keep me entertained. But that was too optimistic of me. I agreed to catch a movie with her after she invited me. So I found a movie and time that worked for us. It was already in the evening, so I believe the movie started 2 or 3 hours later. I told her to meet me there, and she agreed. So I got ready and proceeded to make my way toward the cinema. I arrived at the parking lot, then called her to learn her location. After many rings, she finally answered the phone and said in a panic, "Oh my God, I forgot." She then said, "I forgot that we were meeting at the movies tonight. Please don't leave." I'm on my way now. I thought to myself. How could someone invite me to the movies, then forget only 2 hours later? Now I'm chilling in the parking lot feeling really silly right now. But what just happened? I remember telling her that I was going to leave, but she begged me to stay, and that she was on her way. I didn't leave and go home, and until this day, I don't know why. Maybe I really wanted to see the movie. Or maybe I was bored and just wanted to do something. Anyway, I started making my way to the cinema, and I wasn't very happy. I knew I was in for a rough night. The cinema was located at an outdoor mall in Atlanta. So while standing outside the cinema, I saw this figure approaching me from the side. This figure appeared to be walking right at me. It was at night, so I couldn't see this person's face that well. I remember thinking that this doesn't look like the same woman I took on a date just a week or two earlier. This person looked completely disheveled. Her clothes were baggy and didn't fit. And they were also mismatched with weird colors. Her hair looked like a bird's nest, but a bird's nest is probably more organized. She looked a hot mess. I remember thinking that I hope no one sees me with her cause I would have been totally embarrassed. Anyway, the movie was about to start, so we didn't say much when she reached me. I just sort of turned around and we walked into the cinema. So as we stood in line at the concession stand, I asked her if she was going to get anything. Looking intently at the concession board, she vehemently said,
I want some rice. I want some rice.
I want some rice. I didn't think I heard her clearly, so I asked her again. Are you getting something here? She said it again, but with more conviction. I want some rice, but they don't serve any here. I paused and looked at her with disbelief, then said, no, movie theaters typically don't serve rice.
Well, I'm going to get some rice.
She said, well, I'm going to get some rice. She then turned around and darted out of the theater. I guess she was going to get some rice. Out of some sense of being nice back then, which is something I would never do now, I followed her out of the cinema. I was young back then and didn't know any better. Anyway, we walked to the Cheesecake Factory, which was close by, to find her some rice. But upon getting there, we realized it was closed. However, she was on a mission and nothing would stop her. So she made a quick turn and darted towards Publix down the street. I was thinking, what did I get myself into? So we made it to Publix, but upon arriving, we noticed it was closed too. It was getting late, so I wasn't surprised. I then told her that we needed to return to the cinema before the movie started. She didn't really say anything, but I could tell that she still wanted that rice. Why rice though? I'll discuss my theory on that later. We started making our way back to the cinema. You would think that her antics were over, but you would be wrong, of course. As we were walking back, she saw a line of people standing outside of a cafe. She became intrigued to check it out. I told her to keep her butt moving, but she quickly pivoted and walked over to talk to some guy who appeared to be a security guard for this establishment. I told her that she was being ridiculous and rude and to make her way back to the cinema, but she continued toward the cafe instead. I just said forget it. I knew the situation was toast, so I just made my way back to the cinema. I didn't care anymore. I went straight to the showing and skipped getting some snacks. I got seated and tried relaxing. Soon thereafter, she entered the theater and sat beside me. Of course, no words were exchanged. I glanced over at her, and she tried to pretend that she wanted to be there. Then the movie started. 10 minutes didn't even pass when I looked over at her and she was fast asleep. I couldn't believe it. But at the same time I could. I nudged her to wake her up. Then I reminded her that she was the one who invited me out to the movies. But she showed no interest or motivation in waking up. A dead tree would have been more fun than this succubus sitting beside me. She continued sleeping, so I just turned my complete attention toward the movie in peace. The movie was actually decent as it was based on a Stephen King book. It was suspenseful and entertaining enough. I actually forgot she was sitting beside me during the 2-hour event. As the movie was ending, she eventually woke from her slumber and said with passion, "This movie didn't make any sense." I just gave her the side eye and thought to myself, "You barely watched 10 minutes of it." Anyway, the movie ended. I then turned to her, dapped her up, and told her, "Take care." I quickly exited the movie theater never to see her again. What a waste of my time and energy. So what did we learn from this date from hell, everyone? In hindsight, I think I know what happened with this one. I think she genuinely called to invite me to the movies. Then I think she smoked some weed and forgot all about the date. This would explain her forgetfulness and disheveled appearance, which is reminiscent of many people's appearance after smoking that stuff. It also doesn't evade me that she could have been hooking up with another dude, causing her to be late and discombobulated. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But returning to my first theory, we know what happens after the forgetfulness, the hunger. She was so hungry and wanted something heavy to eat, like rice. Who wants rice when going to movies? The funny thing is, she never even got her rice. But after the hunger, we all know what occurs next, the drowsiness or desire to sleep. She fell asleep like a country town in the middle of Kentucky at midnight. She was out cold. Now, this doesn't excuse her poor behavior and disrespect toward me, but it might help us rationalize her irrational behavior that night. Of course, I should have never gone on that second date, and I definitely should have not walked with her to go get some rice. So when someone tells you to always be nice to someone, learn from others who took losses in the past. Don't do it. Demand respect, and accept nothing less. Value your time and don't waste your dime. To keep your peace, vote with your feet. Anyway, that was another dating story from hell from AEI Stories. I'll be back again with another story soon. Take care and remember, you are the only person responsible for your health and happiness. So until next time.